Welcome to Michelle's Making Coffee, Crafts, Cookies, and Cocktails. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Don't forget to comment and let me know what you like.
Welcome and Merry Christmas. Shout out to my friend Connie who's celebrating her birthday. I know a lot of times those Christmas birthdays get missed because we are celebrating the most important birth, that of baby Jesus. But what an honor to share your birthday with that of baby Jesus. Connie, make it a great day. We're going to start out with some peanut butter cookies today. They're very, very yummy, so I hope you'll give them a try. A couple of crafts and we'll wrap things up with an adult beverage. But to get started, we're going to enjoy peppermint mocha in our coffee. It's delicious. If you haven't already, please subscribe, share with your family and friends, and comment below and let me know what you'd like to see. Let's make it a great day. Let's get started with these delicious peanut butter cookies. You'll need a sifter and a container for your dry ingredients, salt, baking soda, baking powder, butter, peanut butter, all-purpose flour, brown sugar, granulated sugar, and egg and vanilla. Don't worry, I'll put the recipe in the description box. You'll sift the dry ingredients. I start with half the flour and add the salt, baking soda, and baking powder and sift that together and then add in the rest of the flour. Remember my sifter was broken? Well, my dear sweet sister-in-law here in town said, I saw your video and your sifter's broken. Here, you can have mine. So I'm putting it to good use. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate it. Start creaming the butter, and when that's done, you'll add the granulated sugar and the brown sugar and continue to cream it. Next, you'll add the vanilla and the egg. Mix that all well. Next, you'll add the peanut butter and then continue to cream well. Once that is well mixed, you'll start adding the dry ingredients. Add it a little bit at a time, mixing it well, and make sure you scrape the bowl frequently. After everything is well mixed, you'll cover the bowl with plastic wrap and place it in the refrigerator and chill for a couple of hours. It's very important that this cookie dough is well chilled before baking. You'll form 1-inch balls and place them about 1.5 inches apart on the cookie sheet. Line the cookie sheet with parchment paper also. And now to give it the traditional peanut butter cookie look, you'll need to make a hashtag on the cookie. And we'll do this by using a fork and place it in flour and press it into the cookie, making that traditional hashtag. These cookies will bake in an oven that's been preheated to 375 degrees for about 9 to 10 minutes. Keep an eye on them, and when they've reached a nice golden brown like you see here, they're done. And let them cool and then enjoy. Our first craft is going to be a farmhouse wreath made from the rim of a dish drain. I had my son cut off the rim of the dish drain, like you see here, and also cut an opening at the top in the center. For this craft, you'll use ping pong balls, styrofoam cubes, and I had an old garland that had little presents tied onto it, and I took the presents off and opened them up, and there were styrofoam cubes inside. So you need 4 of those, and then you'll also use black and white check ribbon. To start with, you need to make a hole on each side of the ping pong ball, and I used the hot glue gun to make that hole. I put a hole in, and then I set it down on the table so I could line up where the next hole would go, so they would line up on either side, and thread it through on the wire rim. Once you get it around to the end, apply some hot glue to kind of get the 2 balls to stay together, just to keep them in place. And you'll do that until you reach the corner. So it takes about, I think, 3 to get to the corner at the beginning here. I had to play around with it a little bit to get some of the ping pong balls to make the hole a little bit bigger so it would fit on better. And you also see me trimming up some of the loose pieces of plastic, the threads that stuck out. But you can work with that as you go along. Each of the styrofoam cubes are going to be wrapped in ribbon, but before doing that, I need to poke a hole in each of them. I just force each one through on the wire form. They go right through very easily, but I want to make sure that hole's there and that I don't cover it up when I'm wrapping it with the ribbon. Once the holes are all made, I take the ribbon, and it's wired ribbon, and that is important. Wrap it around and measure the size I will need to cover the cube. And of course I need 4 of those, so I cut 4 pieces that length. Next, using hot glue, I wrap the ribbon around the cube, just like you're wrapping a present, and I use hot glue instead of tape. After I get it wrapped around the cube, I fold the ends in, just like you would on a present, and you'll see it doesn't quite reach, it leaves a little opening, but that's perfect. It's right where the hole is, and you'll see that in just a moment. When wrapping around, you can see I tuck the ribbon under to give it a little bit of a more finished look. Here you see what I meant about folding in the ends, but it leaves the center open and you can still see the hole. And don't worry about gluing down the ends yet, because you'll see we do that as we meet the ping pong balls on the form. Next, you'll wrap the other 3 cubes in the same manner, and they'll be all ready when you reach the corner on the wreath. With the wired ribbon, it stays in place once you fold it in on the ends. Next, you'll thread one of the cubes in on the wreath form and push it all the way around till it reaches the ping pong balls on the other side. Using the hot glue, you'll glue it to the ping pong ball, and that also seals down the end, gives it a little extra reinforcement. And you'll do that on both sides of the cube as you add the ping pong balls. You can see I use my scissors or pliers or something to push down on the hot glue, because I've been burned one too many times with that hot glue. Continue working your way around the wreath form with the ping pong balls and the cubes. Place a cube at each corner, all the way around until you reach the center, and then it's time to make our bow. I make this bow the same way I've done in my other videos, but you're going to make a loop, and then when you pinch under your thumb, twist the ribbon and flip it back the other direction. I make 3 loops on each side, and then the piece that I started with gets wrapped around to make the center of the bow. Before cinching everything tight with the wire tie, I definitely want to add my tails first. I always forget to make my tails first, and I end up having to hold the bow in one hand and try to cut the tails with my other hand. You can always use a clip or a clothespin or something to hold the bow while you cut your tails if you're like me and forget to do it to start with. For this bow, I cut 2 pieces that I'll cinch in the middle with the bow, making 4 tails. So I put those underneath and then tighten everything up with my wire tie. And remember, I'll say it every time, every bow needs a good fluffing. So fluff it up, and don't forget to dovetail your ends to give it a polished look. Before attaching the bow, I decide to take some of the apple barrel black paint and give it a dry brush on the ping pong balls. I think that adds a little dimension to the ping pong balls and also helps it tie in with the black and white theme. Next, I take a chenille stick and add some hot glue on it, and push it into the end of that last ping pong ball. I'm going to use that chenille stick to wrap around the two ends and give it a good, generous helping of hot glue when I'm done to tie everything together there and make sure it stays together in the center. Next, you're going to attach the bow to the center at the top there. And also, I add some of the little curly cues that are in the black and white check. You might remember this from my first video and the snowman head hat. I add 2 to each side of the bow, gluing it underneath the bow. And there you have it, my farmhouse wreath. My next craft is a welcome to the new year. For this craft, I used 2 of the Dollar Tree signs, and first I took off the twine hanger, and I'll fill that hole in with some putty. I sanded off some glitter, but then I discovered that with the use of the heat gun, heating up the glitter, you could scrape it off much easier than sanding. I then took the black apple barrel paint to paint the edges of the sign. Next, I took 2 paint sticks and began by cutting off the end where the indentation is for the hand holding on. That left me with about 10.5 inches. I cut that in half for 2 sticks and painted all 4 pieces black. Next, I took my Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white and painted the front of the signs. Once those were painted and dry, I used the black apple barrel paint with a dry brush technique to give it a little distressing along the edges. This adds dimension and just gives it an overall more farmhouse look. Next, we'll use the pieces of our paint stick to form the roof of the house. So you'll glue 2 pieces together and then glue it onto the main part of the house for both of the pieces. Next, using some vinyl sayings that I printed out on my Cricut, I rubbed them onto the front of the house. I've misplaced my burnishing tool, so I had to do this by hand, but it worked just fine. And then peeling back the transfer tape. Next, I decided to add some twine accent. You may remember the twine cord that I've used in several other projects. And I took the brown and wrapped it around one of the houses just 3 or 4 times, and then tied a simple bow by wrapping the twine around my fingers a few times and then cinching it in the middle, securing it with the loose ends that I'd wrapped around the house. And I did the same thing for the second house, but I used the black twine for that. I gave it a little dab of hot glue to secure it down. And there you have it, our welcome to the new year signs. Now it's time to enjoy a holiday beverage, for adults only, of course. Now I've decided to try this Almond Breeze almond nog, and I started with 4 ounces of that in the shaker. You'll need vodka, amaretto, and a little bit of nutmeg also. Don't forget to get your glass chilling. For this drink, you're going to build it in the shaker over ice. 1.5 ounces of vodka, 3/4 ounce of amaretto, and then shake well. The reason we're shaking this beverage is to get it chilled because you're going to serve it in a chilled glass, no ice. Pour it into your chilled glass, add a sprinkle of nutmeg, and enjoy. That's it for another week. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please subscribe, share with your family and friends, comment, let me know what you want to see. Let's make it a great week. Have a very Merry Christmas, stay safe, enjoy the time with family and friends, and make time to smell the coffee.